Crystal, can you maybe start by explaining to me what visual search is? What are we talking about here?
So when we talk about visual search is essentially the act of searching an image. This is something that Google have been working on for a little while. Amazon is all over this. So for instance, you can circle to search within Amazon. So you can go and you can take a photo of something and then search for it on Amazon. Pinterest is also very far ahead on this. Bing has it as well. But essentially what it does is it uses machine learning to identify objects in images. And the clearer the images are, the more accurate the machine learning algorithms are at identifying the object. So if they can see half of a bicycle, then they might say, oh, with a certain percent of accuracy, oh, I think that might be a bicycle. If they can see the full bicycle in profile, for instance, like, it's side on where you can see both wheels, then they'll know for sure that's a bicycle. They can identify a number of things. They can read text. If it's in the right direction, they can identify objects. They can identify faces. They can identify sentiment, logos. They can also identify landmarks. So for a lot of these tool sets, or a lot of these training sets, shall we say, they are connected with the knowledge graph. So for instance, if you take a photo of the Statue of Liberty, Google has a good understanding that this is what the Statue of Liberty looks like. And so they will not only be able to pull up that, yes, that is the Statue of Liberty, but they will also be able to triangulate the location that's in, for instance. It pulls in lots of different elements. And essentially, the thing that people need to remember is that when people are searching for an image or using visual search, the image is the query. It's not necessarily that somebody is putting in the word fruit. They're taking a picture of something and finding out what it is. So if you, as somebody who has a website, want to be more visible on visual search, then you need to make sure that your images are recognizable via visual search. And you need to make sure that your images correspond to the kinds of images that people are likely to search for with their own camera phones.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, Crystal. But so the way I like to start this episode is by why. Why visual search? Obviously I'm not the reference in what people do on the internet, but I probably did run a visual search once, maybe twice. Why is it important? Why are we even talking about visual search for companies, for instance, who are looking to, grow the SEO and grow the results they get from internet results?
Yeah, so essentially most of the visual search, particularly from Google, is coming via Google Lens, and Google Lens is becoming more and more integrated into particularly Android phones, but also Chrome every year. Google has a lot of their tech that's leaning on visual search, and it also connects to a lot of other types of tech. So for instance, Lens allows you to look at QR codes. It allows you to look at content that is, if you have written content and you take a photo of it with Google Lens, they use the same sort of tooling to understand that written text are letters, and they can translate that into a piece of text that you can copy and paste onto your phone. So you could write down some words on a piece of paper, you could take a photo of it, and then they will transform it into text on your phone that you can copy and paste. Additionally, particularly for very visual products like a dress or shoes or furniture or things like that, where there's not necessarily branded, but if somebody really liked this jacket that I'm wearing, for instance, it's kind of difficult, particularly when you have mass-produced items, to find that particular jacket, unless it's like a Dior, Louis Vuitton, Gucci jacket or something like that. If it's just a general jacket that somebody bought at the mall or something, visual search allows you to find those things. There are billions and billions and billions of visual searches made every year on Google, and the number just keeps going up. When I started looking into this, it was 8 billion, and then it was 12 billion, and it just keeps growing. Additionally, they keep improving the tooling. So nowadays you're also able to translate. So if I, as an English speaker, go to Paris and take a photo of a piece of, of some instructions that are written in French, as somebody who does not speak French, I would be able to translate that on my phone. This is particularly useful for me because I am lactose intolerant. And sometimes when I go to other countries, I can't read the ingredients on the food. So if I take a photo of it and it tells me there's milk in it, then I will avoid it. And that's quite useful. So they keep adding these things in. And also, I think that it allows people, particularly in, again, apparel and things like that too, like fashion brands, for instance, to cut through. On Instagram, people are tagging products in a similar sort of way. And so I think users are getting a lot more used to this. I personally got interested in visual search because I was spending a lot of time in parks and forests and things like that with my kid. And he would say, what is that caterpillar? And I would go, I don't know. And so I take a photo of the caterpillar, and then I'd be able to find out what it was via visual search, and whether or not it was poisonous and all of that sort of stuff, which is really useful to know. So I think that for some folks, it's probably something that people are using a lot, but I think it's one of those things that for some folks, they'll be using it a lot. For some people, they won't use it at all.
100%.
But I think once you get used to it, it's really, really useful tool.
So what I love about this podcast is to learn things live. So I actually checked number of visual search per year just to see what I would find. So from SEMrush, and it's a report from Google 2023. So people use Google Lens for 12 billion searches every month.
Yeah.
So it's actually much more widely used than I thought. And on the Google Lens website, there are some actually super interesting applications. So there's a translation, as you just mentioned. There is find a look you like. So you just, send a picture of a look that you like and it will propose you. So it's interesting because there is also like commercialization aspects to it. And it will propose you outfits that suits that. Step-by-step homework help. So that's very useful for maybe the students listening to us. I don't suspect there are a lot, but like if you want to cheat on your test or like find easy answers, just, use Google Lens. And then, as you mentioned, identifying animals and plants. Super, super interesting. So can you give me, from your experience, the business application to this? Because I totally see how, hey, you're with your kids, you're outside, they ask you a question about the tree, you have absolutely no clue what the tree is. So you just, take a picture of it. And if you have good internet connection, you just pass it through Google Lens. But for a business, why would I want to optimize for visual search? Well, what's in it for me?
It depends on the business that you have. If you are in a B2B business, if you're in professional services, if you're that sort of stuff, and you're not, and maybe you don't have like lovely scenery, lovely, outfits to show or beautiful cakes or things like that, then the things you need to think about is prioritizing your logo. Okay. So if you were going to out in the world and you are in a place where people might take, because a lot of times people don't pick up leaflets these days. Like people won't pick up a leaflet, but they will take a photo of your roll banner. Okay. One of the things that's important is that if you have that sort of thing, that your logo is clear as day and looks exactly the same as your website. When you set up your local business profile, your Google business profile, when you add local business markup to your website, when you set up on Google Merchant Center, you add in your logo. You add in your logo to your organization schema, to your local business schema, and the markup on your page. And you should have your logo on your website as well. This means that Google is able to find you. This means that when somebody takes a photo of your roll banner, Google says, oh, that's that business, right? That's Lego, that's Cisco, that's whoever, straight away. And I've done this before at conferences where I've taken a photo of somebody who was stood next to the roll banner and the Google was like, oh, that's this business. And straight away. So that's super useful. When you think about your team branding, so let's say you have your business, you've got uniforms and or you've got like team jumpers or something like that. And you've got the logo on the side. Make sure that the jumper is the right color for your business, like that's your brand colors and that the logo is very clear. That's useful as well. So you want to think about how it aligns with your online stuff, like making sure that all of your schema and all of your, brand visibility on things like social media, on LinkedIn, et cetera, line up with the visuals that people are seeing in real life that they're taking photos of. If you have a van for your business, for instance, it should be branded correctly. If you think about Amazon, you see those Amazon vans coming a mile away and they've got very clear branding, and that all makes sense. If you are a business that is a place where people are taking photos regularly, so think of like a hotel or some sort of destination, it's worth thinking about the kinds of images that people are taking, having a look on UGC sites like Instagram, like TripAdvisor, things like that, and have a look at the photos that people are always taking. I recently went to Excalibur and in Las Vegas, and I took a photo with my mom and my husband, and I took the photo, and when I searched it on Google Lens, they were like, that's Excalibur, right? And they knew exactly because they could see the turrets, and because also they pulled up loads of photos that were just like it. So when you go to that place, there's a spot that says this is a good photo spot. You can guide people who come into your business as to where a good photo spot is. Additionally, you can also make a good photo spot. So I don't know if you've ever been to like a nightclub or a hairdresser's or something, and they have a place that's clearly a photo booth. It's clearly like an Instagrammable moment. Like those are really useful. And if you are a business, make sure that that's also on your website, so that when people take that photo, you will also show up on search. And if they enter that photo, if somebody else enters that and go, oh my God, I want a picture next to that pink wall. Where is that pink wall? They enter that in, and then they'll be able to see exactly who your business is. If you don't, have that photo on your website, then you're really just missing out on potential traffic, potential footfall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is really useful. Additionally, if you are a business, it's a local business, there's a couple of things that are worth thinking about. Let's say you had a bicycle rental place that was in Paris or whatever. You might want to have a picture of something Parisian in it. Like, I'm going to mispronounce it, but the Champs-Élysées, or like oh, thank you very much. Or the, or the Eiffel Tower or something. If you were in Los Angeles, you might want to have a picture that shows like some palm trees or the Hollywood sign or something to that effect, so that Google understands that this is a bicycle rental place in that place. So you're associated with that location because they understand that location. That's worth thinking about as well. And there's lots of different considerations, but just think consciously about your imagery on your website. There's a couple of different tools you can use for this. So Vision AI is Google's machine learning tool that helps you do this, and you can run images through that for free and test them and see what they pull out of it. You can also see from that, how changing the image or how different images affect what the machine learning gleans from your image. So I have an article on this on the Moz blog, and I showed an example of a teapot, right? Like, I'm a little teapot, short and stout. And I put the teapot so that it was so I had a side view so I could clearly see the spout and clearly see the handle and the top of the teapot. And when I ran it through the visual search tool, it said, yes, that is a teapot. When I turned it the other way so that it was straight on and basically you couldn't see the handle, and the spout was kind of, was also visually in line with the body of the teapot, it thought it was a percolator or something else. It really wasn't sure. So it's really important to prioritize the images that you have to understand that. One of the ways so it's useful to do that. Within Wix, we have a tool that pulls that as well. So if you put in if you're a Wix user, when you add your images into your Wix website, we have Vision AI built into the tool set, and it will tell you, it will automatically generate tags that tell you what it sees. So you can upload a few and you can compare and contrast and see which ones things are working on that. This is also super, super useful for local businesses, and particularly if you're using Google Business Profile, because Google uses those for near me searches. So if I see burrito near me, if you have burritos on your Google Business Profile images and you sell burritos, then they will be able to place them more quickly. And so that's super useful. It's all
super interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really valuable, especially if you like burritos.
Or caterpillars, depending on your area. Crystal, something you mentioned in here was markups and schema markups. Can you walk us through what is that exactly? Like, what did you mean with schema markup?
So I have an article on this called, schema markup.
Schema markup.
You need to know. The first title on that is what is schema markup, and essentially, what is schema markup is what SEOs say call structured data, and it's essentially, we use something generally speaking from schema.org. Schema.org was a bunch of people who got together. So Google, Bing, Yandex, like a bunch of other folks got together and were like, we need to categorize the stuff in the world. And so, for instance, if they have definitions and they have properties and types for everything. And it's essentially like just tagging everything. And what you can do on your website is you can tag and structure the data on your website. So instead of just posting a picture of some nail polish and writing some information underneath of it, what you can do is, instead of just having that product listing on there and having Google try to figure out what it is, you can take that data and essentially structure it using schema markup, which are predefined sets of information about your nail polish that you're selling. And it would mean that it makes it quicker for Google to understand it. It also makes it easier for them to remix it. So you would say, like, this is a product page and it costs this much, and this is the description, and here is the image, and this is the brand, and this is the this, and this is the that. And it basically lists it like a spreadsheet. So the way I kind of think about it is like, it's the difference between going to a bar and asking for a Long Island iced tea or giving them the recipe, right? So, like, you go to different bars. Sometimes they use you might get one Long Island iced tea in one way. You might get another Long Island iced tea in a different way. I'm telling on myself here, but.
Hey, if you're still listening to this, you probably find this conversation interesting, and that means that others might too. So the best way you can support this podcast for free is to leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this show. This helps the podcast more than I could say. It means other SEOs can learn and get access to our amazing guests, and that will mean the world to me. All right, with that being said, back to the episode.
But essentially, if you give them the recipe, then they might make you a rum and Coke. Like if you give them all the component parts, which is what Google does, then they could make a rum and Coke, or they could do this, or they could do that. So what they do with the structured data, particularly for things like products or recipes or jobs, things like that, is that they will use it to update the SERP. So for recipes, that was one of the first ones that they did. And they for those ones, they will take all of the parts of a recipe page. So you give them like, this is the recipe, this is the image, these are the instructions, these are the ingredients, this is the video that I made about it, this is the person who wrote the recipe, these are the reviews or the rest, all of this sorts of stuff. And what Google will do is that they will make recipe cards on the SERP. And sometimes they have images in the recipe cards. Sometimes they have videos in the recipe cards. Sometimes they have reviews in the recipe cards. Sometimes they have like other parts in the recipe cards, but they can chop and change how they want to present them as they require. Right. And that doesn't change anything that you've done on your website, but they can chop and change it for what their users need. It also means that they're able to standardize that experience on Google for lots of people. For things like jobs, they're also able to aggregate information. So for instance, if I post that like, I need a bicycle repair person as a hiring for a job, bicycle repair person. Let's say I post it on my website. I post that on three different jobs boards. Google, because everybody's using the same structured data, Google can say, this is the same job. And when you go in from Google and look for a bicycle repair person jobs, you click on that and they'll show you it's here on monster.com, it's here on this.com, it's here on this website, it's here on that. So they're able to aggregate them. They do the same thing with events as well. So it allows you to give Google information really efficiently, and it allows you to get more visibility on Google, and it allows you to pull together some of the information that Google needs in order to serve you better. So when I say about the logos, for instance, you will have the same logo across all of your structured data that's associated with your business, whether it's on your website, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on Google Merchant Center, whether it's on wherever. And that helps Google to understand that this business has its act together and that this business is coherent. And when people say, ask for your business, they'll be able to serve them that logo confidently because they have lots of different elements to pull together.
That makes a lot of sense. Something that is slightly unclear to me is rich results. So how does that fit into your schema markup, and how do business should be looking at this exactly?
So we also have an article on the Wix SEO Hub about rich results. We recently updated that, and basically, so rich results are nice to have, but rich results are not guaranteed.
Okay.
Within Wix, we build in schema markup that makes you eligible for rich results to loads of our different parts of the website. So if you add a product page to your website, you will have schema markup, which makes you eligible for rich results. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will show, but it makes you eligible. So Google has a whole collection of rich results. They used to call it the Rich Results Gallery. I still call it the Rich Results Gallery. And if you search for Rich Results Gallery, you will find this page. And it shows you all of the different elements that they have on there. So things like recipes, like jobs, articles, courses. There's like loads of other ones. I think the math problems and things like that show in there as well. Videos, although videos is a bit cheeky because it's almost all YouTube. But they have all of these on there. And essentially what you do is you make sure that your website has the appropriate structured data to be eligible for these things. As I said, we build these into tons of parts of Wix. So in the video pages, in the event pages, in the, I'm blanking, in the course pages as well, in the product pages, we have them all built in so that as soon as you fill in all of the appropriate fields, we will generate this schema for you. You also have the ability to modify this schema markup if you need to, because when you are updating this code, Google will review it and you will see whether or not you get rich results in Google Search Console. And you can see whether or not you have rich results if you go and validate it. Now, sometimes within the validation process, they also have information about like, oh, there's a warning, or oh, there's a recommendation, or oh, there's a this or that. If you want to modify your structured data in order to align with some of the recommendations that they have in there, you can do that within Wix, and we make sure that that's available for you to do. So what people sometimes get confused about is that some of the tools that Google has, like, for instance, there's the rich results testing tool. Sometimes if you have something like blog markup or something that doesn't exactly get rich results, it's kind of like some of the component parts of it get rich results. You might not see it in the rich results gallery. I think you do now, but at one point they didn't necessarily. You might not see all of the structured data that you have on your page in the rich results testing tool. That doesn't mean it's not there. Okay. Some people get confused by that. It does mean it's not there. I explained this in my other article called Structured Data Validation. And so basically, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means that it's not necessarily eligible for rich results. There are over 800 different types of schema across the whole collection of schema markup. So Google doesn't give rich results for everything, right? They add different things all the time. They recently added discussions and forums as well, which we also have that built into Wix. And so they recently added that, and they're adding things all the time. So it's useful to mark up what is relevant to your page. And the best thing about it that I really like is that you can add the markup to the back of the page and it doesn't change the front of the page necessarily. You don't have to change anything on the front of the page in order to add the schema markup, but Google will be able to use your content in new ways if you do. If that makes sense.
100%. So give me a practical example of all this. Like, let's say, I don't know, I'm a chocolate manufacturer and I want to be ranking for chocolate cake recipes, because if people find chocolate cake recipes through my website, then they'll be like, oh, but that's actually gold. I might as well just use their chocolate, and then they make purchases online. How do I fit all this together? How do I make sure that I'm optimized for visual search? I also have proper schema markup, and I have a chance to appear in the rich results. Like, what needs to happen for me to rank for chocolate cake recipes?
Okay, so if you were on a Wix website, or a Wix Studio website, so if you were using Wix Studio, for instance, what you would do is you would take lots of beautiful pictures of your beautiful chocolate cakes. You would upload them into the backend you would upload your images into the Wix image tools, which you can connect to from your Google Drive directly, and you would upload them into that, and then you would have a look at the tags that are generated for it. The one that says chocolate cake, the one that is screaming chocolate cake pastry, ganache, whatever. The one that's screaming all of that has all of those tags that are most relevant, put that one first, right? Make sure it's very clear. If you need to upsize your image, you can also do that with AI within the Wix image optimization tool set. Just saying, if you need to remove the background so that it's not too cluttered and so it's very clear and everybody can see your chocolate cake in all its glory, you can do that too. Then you upload it onto your website and we will optimize it into the best format for you, by the way. And depending on which type of page you're using, so let's say you're putting it on a blog page. If you're putting it on a blog page, then we will add schema for the page, as it were. If you need to create specifically recipe markup for that, then you can use a schema markup generator and create recipe markup for your tool. You can combine that with ChatGPT, for instance, to help you get into some more of the details. And additionally, and then you can upload that using your Wix SEO tools to edit that page specifically. So you can be using the Wix SEO toolset, you can add JSON LD markup to your web page. Now, when you have your small business that's selling chocolate cakes, you can also use you can also generate local business markup that has your logo on it and has all of the details about your business and where they are and your location and all of that sort of stuff. You can also use it to create, you can also, within a Wix Studio or Wix website, you can also create a Google business profile page through Wix as well. And then you can add those photos to that too. Now, when someone goes to search for your web page or for a chocolate cake, they will see the schema markup for the blog page that you have. They will see your business location. They will see the content that you have there. They will see the image that is optimized, that is optimized for visual search. And if somebody else posts a picture of your chocolate cake pretending that it's theirs, or posts a picture of your chocolate cake, they can search for it to find you really, really well. Another thing that I've seen done well is like essentially, particularly for food-based places, a friend of mine sent me a photo of a fish on a plate. And she was like, oh, I went to this restaurant. It was so great. And I searched this image on Google Lens and I didn't even realize it, but there was a tiny little logo on the plate. And because of that, I was able to figure out exactly where she'd had this food because of that logo. It was like, oh, this food is from this little restaurant in London. And I was like, oh, great. I know exactly where that is. And I could go and, enjoy that same meal if I wanted to.
It wasn't based on the fish itself then. It was based on the logo that was on the plate. So that's super interesting. Every little optimization counts.
Right. So it was kind of both. So the images that I got had that image and had the same styles, the same types of fish. So it was like a big flat fish on a plate. And so it had the same, it was a tilapia. But the thing I found interesting was that the logo wasn't obnoxious. Like it was just like a little logo in the corner, because it was very clearly presented. I've got an article that talks about like visual search in real life. And one of the things that I found really interesting was that I did an assessment I'd gone to a basketball game, and basketball games are full of logos. There's logos everywhere. And I took a photo of the arena. And it pulled up lots of little bits of text, like half of the word Budweiser and half of the word Allstate and half of the word, half of little bits of things. But the only logo it pulled out was Kia, which was because they were sponsoring the Jumbotron. And there's where all of the other logos were in the stands area, and it was super busy. There's lots and lots and lots of, but Kia had the Jumbotron, and so it was like dark space. There was lots of dark space around it, and it was very clear. And that wasn't the only logo in that space. There were other logos lower down, like the same Kia logo was on the basketball hoop, but it was so busy that it wasn't very easy for the visual search tools to pick it out. So it was really, really interesting to see that. So think about the placement and make sure that the placement's super clear as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to pay for such placements like Kia, I guess it will be easier for you to stand out. Obviously, it also
true, but but you kind of have to like be very mindful of it to make sure that you get the placement that you need.
100%. Cool. Crystal, that makes a lot of sense. I think you've already hinted a bit on it, but let's talk a bit about what you do at Wix. Like, can you tell us how come you know so much and how come you have that many articles talking about all this? Like, what do you actually do at Wix?
So I'm the head of SEO Communications at Wix, and I am somebody who has worked in agency side as an SEO, freelance as an SEO. I've worked in marketing for, like big companies, small companies, et cetera, et cetera. I've been working for almost 3 years, and in that time, we've done so many incredible things. So we launched a new product called Wix Studio, which is designed specifically for professionals. So it has lots of all of the wonderful things that people love about classic Wix, but it also has, some really great innovations and improvements. So you're able to customize CSS, for instance. You're able to use an AI coding assistant, which I used literally just yesterday for a third-party API integration, which was really awesome. And we also have the ability to make responsive designs, and we also have lots and lots of AI built into it as well. From our SEO team, in the time I've been here, we are going from strength to strength, incorporating things like Google Search Console into the Wix backend, so that you can see your Google Search Console data as you log into Wix and Wix Studio. We also have Index Now built in. We have, some incredible optimizations for rich results and schema markup, which is great because, as you can tell, I love schema.
Mm-hmm.
I've written loads on it.
You can say.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot. It's something I'm really into. And I think the reason why I'm really into it is because I've seen it work, and it works fairly consistently. Because it's just a really, really efficient way to understand data. When we think about structured data, it's essentially because structured data isn't exclusive to SEO. And structured data is something that is just a general data framework or general data concept. So if you have a pile of Lego, and you think about that as Lego or as data, then when you sort it into colors, you're structuring the data, right? When you sort it into sets of 2 or sets of 6 or whatever it is, that's structuring the data as well. And with all the AI, innovation that's going on right now, being able to structure your data can give you incredible efficiencies in growth and incredible opportunities in making more of the information that you have, making more of the content that you have. So if you think about your content in that way, it can give you incredible opportunities.
And that makes a lot of sense. Crystal, I think that was an absolute masterpiece. Thank you so much for coming on SEO Gurus. If people want to find out more about you, about Wix, I guess it's pretty obvious, but where should they go?
So we have the Wix SEO Learning Hub. I have an experts page on there, so you can check that out. But you can also find us just generally doing webinars, podcasts, articles, interviews, lots of fun things. Wix.com/SEO/learn.
Fantastic. We'll put all the links in the description and also the link towards the different articles that you mentioned. Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end. For more content updates, visit our website at ghapodcast.com, and don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn for more tips and insights on SEO. See you in the next episode.